Power of a missed meal. There are various stakeholders in any organization. In our institute, they were faculty members, officers, staff members, students, board members, MHRD representatives, etc. Each one had different expectations and consciously or otherwise created problems, which I found were difficult to handle. Luckily, not all of them came at the same time, said the director. After 4 years of being in the position of director, I was feeling happy. The institute had grown despite various constraints, and we were having all the stakeholders happy, except some officers who were demanding elevation to position that did not exist, and MHRD was not prepared to consider creation of high-level position despite requests by the directors of various institutions. However, one fine morning we faced a totally unexpected development that shocked us. We had given advertisement for security and housekeeping contracts. The agency, which had assumed charge for both the services 6 years ago, had agreed for renewal on a nominal increase 3 years ago, but was reluctant to continue as the staff was agitating for 50% increase in monthly compensation, allegedly at the instance of local political leaders of 4 main national parties and some insiders. Some office bearers of the Institute Staff Union had told me earlier that they are instigating us to go for agitation. We therefore floated tenders for 2 services, he continued. The tenders were invited and a committee was constituted to examine the same and make recommendations for award of contracts. The committee finalized and called negotiations with 2 parties, S1 and S2, who had made lowest tender for security and housekeeping, respectively. Being a small city with total population of 5 lakhs, the previous agency had all the workers from neighboring area. The new agency also had to bank on them as bringing security guards and housekeeping staff from outside the city was not possible. The problem was that both the security as well as housekeeping service providers were proposing reduction in number of persons to 2/3 of the existing manpower. The workers allegedly, on the instigation of local politicians belonging to 4 different national political parties, were demanding a 50% hike in monthly payment, governed under Minimum Wages Act. The central government had issued a circular asking centrally funded institutions to reduce expenses by 10% as an economic measure. While the issue could be amicably settled with the security service provider, who was under supervision of a former army colonel, the same was not getting settled with the service provider for housekeeping, which did not have a strong supervisor locally. A young person deputed for the purpose was threatened by outside unions for dire consequences, like threats of life if he entered the campus. The matter could not settle, and for more than 15 days workers did not attend to work. The campus started stinking with no solution in sight. In the meantime, due to some terrorist attacks elsewhere, the central government advised not to allow any unauthorized persons in the campus, since the workers had not been formally engaged by the service provider. 2, the institute could not issue entry pass to them. The matter heated up, and one morning there was a frantic call from the officer dealing with the subject, informing the director that all the housekeeping workers had gathered at the main gate and planning to forcibly enter the gate with the support of 4 union leaders, some of whom were perceived to be some militants. He also informed that the fury is so much that there could be serious law and order problem and the institute property may be damaged. The situation had turned very grave and frightening all of a sudden, and the situation looked going out of control. The commander of S1 was sitting with the director and suggested that the latter should immediately request the Ministry of Home to airlift CISF paratroopers from Delhi to save the glass campus. We tried to contact our ministry, but that day, due to some prior important function, the minister and officers could not be contacted. We then sent a fax to Secretary Home, Government of India. The ministry did not send CISF paratroopers, but requested the DGP of the state government to rush help urgently. By afternoon, IGP of the area reached campus and assured us full safety, including positioning of police vans fitted with guns, hidden beneath the tall coconut trees and bushes spread throughout the campus. This gave me a sense of security and confidence to face the situation, but that alone was not the solution. The deadlock had to be broken. The officer in charge of the security had been asking the director to meet the outside union leaders of 4 major unions to negotiate the matter. The director was reluctant as he had no locus standi to negotiate on behalf of service provider 2. He, however, was prepared to meet as citizen of the area to develop a solution. The next day, all the 4 union leaders came to meet. We started at 11 a.m. and changed 3 interpreters as I did not know local vernacular language and they did not know either English or Hindi, which I knew, said the director. It was difficult to find a solution as the union leaders were not willing to accept signing of individual agreements, which service provider 2 was stipulating as a standard practice of the company. The unions wanted that the director should also guarantee that no one would be removed, which he could not agree. Besides, there were 2 conditions in the contract, one related to removal on indiscipline and another one that some of the surplus staff would be transferred to other establishment of S2 in the city if necessary. I was not agreeable to delete any of the conditions as I had no locus standi on the issue, said the director. The deadlock continued for 3 hours and at 2 p.m. my office assistant reminded me of the lunch time getting over, said the director. I asked him to wait. At 3 p.m. he asked again and arranged lunch in the office. At 4 p.m. the union leaders requested me to have lunch. At 5 p.m. they asked again. I inquired whether they had taken lunch. They replied in affirmative. At 5:30 they repeated the request again. I was upset and said, the 40-odd workers who have served the institute for 6 years have not taken lunch, and you all who pretend to represent them have taken lunch. How can I swallow the meal? I'll not be able to do that, said the director. At 6 p.m., all the 4 leaders relented and said, we are agreeing to everything. We trust you, but would like to make one request. Please meet the workers and tell them that they won't be sacked now for reduction of manpower as proposed by S2. They all will sign individual agreement also. The demand for 50% hike in the compensation will also not be impressed. They all have faith in you. Please do not tell any administrative staff, and please take lunch. I agreed to meet the workers, but made it clear that I only will request the service provider not to do so. Nothing more, said the director. Next day morning, 8 a.m., before office opened at 9 a.m., all the people assembled at top floor of the new built dining hall on the rear side of the institute. Each one signed the agreement, collected security pass, had a cup of tea, and resumed duty at 9 a.m. when the institute offices opened. Within quotes, I had never realized the power of missing a meal as a substitute for bullets and guns, but could now imagine the power Gandhiji's Anshan commanded that contributed to independence of India, the director concluded. Later, even the director was wondering whether and how far and under what circumstances it can still work in Indian organizations.